Okay, hello everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So, if you didn't get a chance to pick up your merch before the meeting, we'll stay a little bit after if you ordered and still waiting to pick it up. Then we have some announcements. This is a QR to join our email list. I know I had some problems last meeting, but it should be all updated, so I'll give you a second to scan that. And then the semester dues were due by the last GB meeting, but since we had it on Zoom, if you have not paid, we're gonna extend it to tonight so you could talk to Aiden to get those paid. And then this form is for if you haven't joined a herd last semester. This is for new people this semester. You can fill that out and you'll be placed with a herd to do herd activities. And it's due by Valentine's Day, Saturday. And then just a reminder, we have our fundraiser next week. It's going to be February 18th at Panda Express from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. So there's lots of chances to go. You'll have to show this flyer at checkout, which we'll post in the group me as well on the Instagram as well. And then you will receive an additional point for attending. You can send a picture of the receipt to Sydney to get that point. And then we're also still having our discounted Christmas bandana sale. So if you're interested, Sydney brought those and she'll stay after too. And then this QR is just to fill out a when to meet so we know the best availability for our GB for things like volunteering events and socials, mental health events, things like that. It was set in the group me last week. So if you haven't filled it out, please fill it out as we like to plan events that people can make. Give me a second. And then today we're going to be hearing from Dr. Hannah Miller about ownership practice. Please or anything, just use the computer. I think just the computer. Just touch it. Yeah. Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay? I have a bit of a cold, so I'm sorry. Yell at me if you can't hear me. So, it's easier for me to read back here. A couple things I wanted to talk about. So, surviving to success. I really wanted to talk about actual practice in general. I think especially as pre-vet students, you guys get a lot of information about vet school and applying and all those things. I think it's really hard and it's a long road, especially like Gen Chem 2 is not fun. Can attest, neither was OChem, but I don't have to remember that anymore. So there's survival after that. Um, so I wanted to talk about a little more of the actual fun stuff, things that you get to look forward to, and hopefully, inspire you to keep up with the journey. So I'm going to talk about a little of everything. A little about me first. So, I'm a 2018 grad of Ohio State, have a degree in animal sciences, then graduated from Ohio State Vet School in 2022. I was a member of the Food Animal Club. I did some other stuff. We'll talk about it as we go along. This is my wonderful husband, Dr. Niehaus, white-coated meat. I was a COVID vet student, so that wasn't really fun. But we did survive and we moved on. So now we'll talk a little bit about our clinic. Probably could update this map even a little more from that. We have a pretty wide area as far as where we cover. Service pretty much anything, mostly cattle, horses, dogs, and cats. But I did see a rat this week. I joke I see anything that breathes. Saw a turtle last week. It's fun, keeps life interesting. I haven't seen a snake or a goldfish. But you never know. I see a lot of chickens. It's amazing how many people will walk through the door. I pretty much joke if they'll pay the bill, I'll see it. And I'll figure out what we need to do along the way. So it keeps life very interesting. Um, just some little fun things about me. I do raise and enjoy showing cattle. Kind of something once again we'll talk about a little bit as we go along. I have a donkey, cat, and two dogs who they got booted for pictures of my daughter. So I'm sure they'll forgive me. But she is 6 months old, super cute. So being a new mom, practice owner, it's a lot of fun stuff as well. Um, but we'll get into the fun things. So, my first lesson I want to share with you all is just show up and try. And I think this really speaks for a lot of different aspects of life. And I'm going to tell this story right here. So, um, a little bit of background. I walked into a practice that's been around for about 50 years. Um, the gentleman I bought it from, we don't always seem to eye on the things we like to see. And that's fine. We both like cows. I like different types of cows. My cows are a little fluffier than the ones he likes, and that's fine. So what I'm doing here, this is a C-section. It didn't end well. I'll cut to the chase. The cow died, the calf died. It took forever. It was brutal. She didn't want to hold still, stitch up her uterus. But you can see the gentleman in the background. He's one of my probably favorite and best customers. They got invited to our wedding. I went to his kid's graduation party, and I'm not from this area, so making those connections is great. But I think the moral of the story is I failed. I didn't do my job. The calf died. The cow died. That's not great. Um, it's not as a doctor what we want to do. You know, we want to provide good outcomes. We want to care for animals and care for people through their animals. And I really didn't accomplish either of those things that day. But I tried and I did my best. And sometimes all you can do is your best. And it worked out. I mean, they referred so many clients to me. I mean, even if they're not, one of my top 10 clients, they've done more for me than I could even imagine. So, excuse me, just really goes to show you that showing up and trying and applying yourself can really, really get you quite a long ways. Embrace the bullshit. And I'm sorry, I'm a large animal vet. I'm going to swear a little bit. You'll have to bear with me. Um, it's not an easy profession. It's not an easy road to get to the profession. Your undergrad is not easy. Your prereqs are not fun. Vet school is a battle and a journey in itself. And then you get out and you're like, oh, I'm out. At least you make a paycheck at that point, but it's not always great. So, on the far left hand is where I still have the nice scar. Ended up in the hospital with 6 stitches in my hand. It was a good day. I still went and preg check cows after I got that, so it was a good time. The picture beside that, those are tires I'd had for a month. I ended up with two flat tires trying to euthanize a horse a mile and a half off the road. That was the most expensive horse euthanasia of all time. Tires, especially the tires I keep on my truck, are very, very expensive. So, not a great day. Picture beyond that, I got knocked in the head by a horse, pulling pigs at 2 in the morning. And then for some reason the power just likes to go out whenever it wants at the clinic. And one day we'll have a generator, but I'm suturing up a dog with a headlamp because well, there was nothing else I could do. So when you're sedated, you gotta roll with it. So there's a lot of things, once again, on the road to practice, into practice, in school, when you're applying, sometimes you just have to get in there and you have to deal with it. And once you do, you know, I think it makes you a better person, a better practitioner, learning to go with the flow and looking into applying to vet schools. I think that's one thing they really look for is how you're willing to adapt to situations. So another fun stuff, be willing to try new things. So there's quite a few pictures of pigs on here. I am not a pig person by trade. I like cows, grew up with dogs. Um, I never really wanted to show a pig. I never did. It wasn't my thing. I really like surgery though, and living in a type of world with a lot of livestock show medicine for 4-H kids and such, you get to play with a little more because the animals are worth a little bit more. So I don't know if you can see the two pictures in the middle. That was actually a pig where it should have just had a dew claw, had an extra foot. So the pig actually had 6 feet. You want to tell with that? And you can see it removed really nicely. Got a little set behind, just trying to figure out pain management after amputating a kind of foot toe situation. But went and won its cost at county fair. So it's kind of fun um, to be able to do those things. Um, the picture where you can see my hand in it, that's actually a testicle from a cryptorchid pig. It's that tiny. Wild. I did cut into it. It was testicular tissue. pretty crazy. And on the far right is actually the first foreign body surgery that I ever did. Um, Even being in school and whatnot, you see these things. Of course, Ohio State has the fancy staplers, and there's 17 people in the room to handle all sorts of things. I don't have that, but we figured it out. This was a dog named Kane that ended up I removed 13 inches of his small intestine after he decided to eat a squeaker toy. Um, and he's doing great. I see him about once a year. He's growing, he's happy. And definitely a success story, but be being willing to try new things. There's things I hadn't done. I had the skill set to do it. And I guess enough gumption to try. And it was me or nobody. So sometimes it's kind of the fun thing about rural practice is well, I get to try because not everyone can afford the Ohio States and such, but you do get some good outcomes sometimes. So, uh, probably my favorite thing about veterinary medicine is the diversity of it. There's so many different things, and once again, like I said, I could add more pictures of fun things I've seen and got to work on. I do have a couple bison herds, casted a leg on a pet deer, goats. These are some orphan coyote pups, given some rabies vaccinations too. The parrot on the top right, her name is Kelsey. She's obsessed with Walker, Texas Ranger. I don't know if anyone knows who that is, but that's what she watches all the time. Um, Lots of chickens. I do love my draft horses, bearded dragons, rabbits. Of course, cows will always have my heart, as well as 20-pound fat cats. But there's so many options within the profession. I mean, you can literally work on anything, and I'm fortunate enough to own my practice and have the ability to say yes to about whatever if I want to. Sometimes that does bite me in the butt when they ask me about the rat, and I said yes, I didn't know they had it in the room with them, but it worked out. We got to take care of Mr. Kitty, the rat, um, and so many other things. It's just a million options within it, and you can do so many things. And if you decide you don't like what you're doing, there are so many options even beyond that. That's just the wonderful thing about veterinary medicine. So another really important lesson, I think this is something that you can start when you're in your undergrad and work your way clear up until you graduate, and then you have to call them. You don't go get to hang out with them, but just learning how other people do things. So I knew I wanted to work with cattle. So I love beef cows. It's just what I enjoy. And I spent as much time as I could out west learning how they do it because, I might test 45 to 50 bulls a year. But when I was out there, we did 44 in a day. That's just something that volume wise I don't get here. Something as a student I was able to do. Something else that's really fun, and you don't get to see it as much until you get to vet school, but there's a lot of really good grants out there for travel. I spent a lot of time in vet school seeing places that now I'm too busy to go see. But Alberta, Canada, Banff National Park, Yellowstone, the Tetons, Teddy Roosevelt in North Dakota, a lot of places that I got to travel and see and had those wonderful opportunities. This is just a list of kind of all the places at least I remember going to for a portion of time. And a lot of small animal options too. A lot of my small animal experience comes from working in urgent care, just back home. And it came from a simple like I was like, hey, you guys need help? And they said, oh yes, please. So I didn't get paid much, but I got a lot of really good experience and exposure to things that, definitely influence how I practice medicine today. So a lot of fun stuff there. So another thing that's really important, and I think once again, it starts even when you're in pre-veterinary programs and trying to be an asset in practices you shadow with or places you go, is, bring something to the table. So um certain things you can add value to yourself and say, hey, I can help you out because of this. I can better this place because of these situations. Um, I really like surgery and I really like repro. So ultrasounding cows and horses is a lot of fun to me. So let's see, I spend a lot of time with my arm up something or another. And that's fine. On the far right, I really like performing surgical dehorns in cattle. It's something I've gotten pretty good at. Um, but it's something you can add value and once again, just to tie it back to, applying to vet school and those things, what makes you different? what can you bring to the profession? What can you bring to the table? There's a lot of really good things that you can do to bring to that, from leadership skills to actual technical clinical skills as well. So this is my really important thing. I've learned more so as a business owner than anything, and having hired associates and hired staff and working with students. Um, I have a very heavy load of students, and I always try to be completely 100% honest in the truck of what's going on in my life, what's going on in the practice. I don't sugarcoat things because I think it's really important to set the stage for you guys that it's not always puppies and kitten appointments and they're cute and they run around and everything goes well. So it's really important just to keep your expectations in check. It's not good as a young veterinarian to get out and be like, oh, I didn't want this or I didn't realize this. So and that's not saying you're gonna walk into every situation and like that. And that's okay. Be willing to set boundaries for yourself and say this isn't something I enjoy, this isn't something I want to do. Like I mentioned earlier, there's so much diversity in this profession. If you don't like something, be honest with yourself, be honest with your employer, just be willing to say, okay, we're gonna go a different route. And that's fine. There's so many good opportunities here. And not every day is gonna be a good day. And that's okay. You're gonna have bad days. You have days you're just like, oh my gosh, all right, something else is gonna go wrong. And that's unfortunately part of it. It's part of just raising livestock too. I raise cattle. I'm really tired of calving season right now. I'm ready for it to be done. We'll move on to next year because it's not been a fun year. Um, but you have to kind of pick out those wins and realize that bad days aren't bad forever. And you can move on. And I'm going to talk about I'm almost there. But once again, just advocating for yourself. So stand up for what you believe in, what you want within the profession, within your personal life, all of those things. And I think setting boundaries as early as, going into vet school, still enjoying life. Studying all the time is not fun. I'm sure, I mean, even in undergrad, we see that you have to go see your friends every once in a while. Those are just really important things. But a lot of really good life lessons in a lot of things. This is like my fun little tidbits. Take pictures. If you're in a place in a practice where they're okay with you taking pictures of cool cases, just take them. It's so much fun to reference back and be like, oh, well, I saw this. And even I love when students show me pictures. It's a lot of fun. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I hadn't seen that one before. Um, Work-life balance is a lie. It's true. I don't have much of a life. I'm just kidding. I do sometimes, but um, owning a practice definitely changes things. But I love my job, so it's not as overwhelming as it could be. And I've been practicing by myself for the most part for almost 2 years. So on call 24/7. It's a good time. I'm really hoping my phone's not ringing, but I put it on silence. Don't worry. But I am always willing to answer the phone and get some fun things, even when it's multiple calls in the night, or sometimes it's just as easy as saying, hey, you're okay. We'll see you in the morning. Don't worry, calm down. That's fine. So that people just appreciate being talked to and calm down. So, but kind of really the important things I think going forward as far as being a veterinarian, I think probably the two most important things. The first one is find your passion within the profession. So, and this is something you don't always find until you're in vet school or you're out of vet school. And sometimes it takes you even time after that. But um, the biggest challenge, and I think makes you so passionate for entering the profession, you have to find something you enjoy. I love repro, embryos, all those things. I love it. It's so fascinating to me. I love ultrasounding every aspect of bringing some sort of aspect of life into the world. I think it's just so interesting. Um, I love calvings. Well, when they go well, they're a little brutal sometimes, but there's nothing better than having a live little baby, especially a start to finish situation. So, um, I also really like surgery. The left one is cutting a C-section in the middle of a field in June. They did bring me a tent, so I didn't have the sun beating down on me, but that was a journey. Surgical dehorns. I'm actually a little better than that. Let's I need to update those pictures. I'm practicing. And then, this just kind of goes to answering the phone. There's a story to this picture on the right. I'm sure you all want to hear it because it's a good one. But I got a call for a lame horse. She's not doing well. She's really lame. She can barely get around. Okay, not great. And it's, 7 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and I'm a little annoyed because I get there and the wound looks really old, dragging me out of my house at this hour of the night, to go see this. And I get there and I start messing around. I'm like, this is so weird. It's like a circular, you know, wound around the hoof. It's just so odd. So I start probing around in there. And I kind of I feel something. I said, that's weird. And I go around the other side and I can almost like strum it. And I said out loud, I said, this feels like a rubber band. And I kid you not, this horse had a hair tie around its leg. I don't know how it happened. She was not nice, so it wouldn't have been just like a fun joke. You could just put a hair tie around its leg. But I cut it off and soaked her leg. She walked around. I looked like a hero. And they complained about their bill. That's another story. But it's a really neat case where it's like, well, who would have thought a hair tie? Like, really? Just kind of one of those fun things. So, I enjoy the weird things that show up. So I also really, really, really enjoy the clients that I have. Um, I love the kids and supporting people like county fairs and whatnot. These are just some pictures of me buying in on things and thank you cards and just being involved in the community. I don't spend all my time, doing things, but it's something little I can do. They sponsor the bar at their cattle feeders banquet where all the kids get money from showing calves at the fair and the whole shaking hands and kissing babies thing. It's fun. You get to see everybody and feel a part of a place that I didn't grow up in. I won't say I didn't grow up in a similar town, but it's a sense of community that I thought I would miss going somewhere that I didn't grow up in. And it's really fun. My husband jokes and he grew up here that I know more people than him now when we go to the fair, so that's kind of fun. And I do really love having students. Um, it makes my heart happy. Had quite a few over the years from all different schools. These two down here in the corner actually both worked for me and are in their second year of vet school now. So I was kind of like I felt like a proud mom moment. Um, but yeah, I have a lot of students. It keeps me on my toes. They probably teach me as much as I teach them, but um, it's it's a lot of fun, that's for sure. My other thing that I think is the second most important thing, is finding your passion outside of the profession. I guess you could say in layman's terms, just have a hobby. But I love having cattle. I know I said I'm really tired of calving season, but I love showing and going places and having fun. Um, it just it's something I enjoy and something I keep doing. And when I'm trudging around in the mud in the winter and mad because calves won't nurse or something, I'm like, why do I do this? But I do it so I can do stuff like this and have an excuse to travel a little bit. And still, once again, I mentor a lot of kids through this through showmanship lessons and putting decent calves in their hands. So it's a lot of fun and I enjoy it. It's one of the things I really enjoy. And of course, other things like my cute little kid. I like to decorate cookie cakes because that's kind of fun. Um, the big group picture in the bottom at one of my friend from vet school's wedding. It's like a little reunion or whatnot. Went to the Land Rover 3-day event in Kentucky. Used to be the Rolex, a lot of fun. Just going around, going to Keeneland, traveling around with my husband and my best friend's wedding, Vegas for the rodeo. You know, uh, Still getting to enjoy things, and I'm a very busy person at work, and I still get to do fun stuff. So you can do it. But my big thing at the end of it is I truly love what I do. I love going to work and seeing people and taking care of them. And I'm probably fairly tired and a little burnout just from working so hard for the last few years. But it's something that I truly love and I would never do anything else. So um I think that's probably my biggest point. It's something I think you have to love to do it. It's a labor of love, going through school, going through undergrad, going through vet school and whatnot. Um, but it's a wonderful thing. So questions. This is my favorite part now. I'll answer anything. Go ahead.
Do you feel like your passion for lifestyle would be a little bit different, more so commercial, working show?
Um, so the question was, do I think my passion for livestock would be different if I worked more with commercial than show? I do actually work with quite a bit of commercial cattle. Um, I enjoy cattle in general. I enjoy the show stuff probably because I get to play more. Um, Most of the commercial guys don't let me do as much fun stuff, but cattle are worth a lot right now. So casting broken legs and all that, I still get to do. But I like the cows in general. Pigs are a little different. I probably enjoy the show pigs a little more. Commercial pigs are not as big of a thing for me, but um, I enjoy all of it. I probably talk about the show cattle more because they're more my babies than anything else. But no, I enjoy all of it. I try to stay really involved with Ohio Cattlemen's too. Um, just involving on both aspects of things from commercial advocacy and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
Sweatshirt.
Did you know that you wanted to own a practice going into vet school? And if so, were there extra steps you took like during vet school to prepare yourself for that?
Um, I don't know about going into vet school. In vet school, yes, for sure. Did I take extra steps? Probably not. I probably could have, I'll be honest. And they have a really, really good business minor program here. I didn't take it because I didn't want to be in Columbus. And at that point in time, it was in person. I know it went online for a little bit and then they put it back in person. But I went home for the summer every year. So, or went like across the country, different practices. So it is a really good program though. And I know people that did it. Um, so it also was free. So that was kind of cool too. But not much is free. But as far as beyond that, I definitely made the most of whatever time I had in the truck with vets. And I think going back to just seeing how other people do it, you learn a lot of how not to do things too. I learned a lot of, especially how I didn't want to treat people. And one of my favorite mentors I ever went to, he taught me more than I ever could imagine. I couldn't work for him. Actually, a couple of them. And that's okay. I learned that. And I was like, all right, I probably don't want to act that way towards my employees. That's not a very, very good way to be. So, I think your people skills you really can gauge from that. I'm very fortunate that my husband is a numbers person, and all our bookwork goes to our accountant. So, hire people that do what you're not good at, I guess. So that's probably a big just life lesson in general. But um there were probably more things I could have done, but I did at least try to go to as many places as I could, observe how to and to not. So I think it's another question here.
Where's challenges based off business side?
People. Oh yeah. People on all aspects. So employees and clients. So the actual like numbers and business, like I know how to make money and do all that. And once again, I talk to my accountant or my banker or my husband as far as advice on where to go from there. But people are the hardest part of the job in any aspect, let alone when you have to like manage them and you're responsible for paying their paycheck and all of those things. Um and just I have a clinic full of girls in their 20s. For the most part, they are absolutely wonderful. I have a great team, wouldn't change them for anything. But there's always a little drama. I mean, it's kind of with the territory. Um, and clients can be very demanding and harsh and unreasonable. But you do your best, especially as a practice owner, to take care of them. And if you can't take care of them, you just have to learn to refer them on, which is probably the hardest life lesson is accepting that it's okay to not make someone happy. Um, but people are definitely the hardest, and you learn every day. It's a lot of trial by fire. Or calling a mentor and be like, I don't know what to do. And I'm in some really, really good Facebook groups, which is not where I thought I would get a lot of advice at this point in my life. But um like practice owner groups of hey, I need help from the beehive. What do I do here? I'm 28 years old. Help me, please. And that's been a really good source for some things. Especially going through some fun personnel situations in the last couple months. So it's definitely the hardest part, but it's a really rewarding part too. So it's fun. Like I said, seeing those two girls get into vet school, it's very, very rewarding. They both deserve it. So who else?
As a large animal vet, how do you deal with harsh Ohio winters?
Warm clothes. So I think you do adjust a little bit. It was actually really nice when it stayed cold for a while. There's nothing worse than it cold and warm and cold and warm and cold and warm. But I layer up. They make heated vests. Those are wonderful. And I think also there's a little bit of like I don't go preg check a bunch of cows when it's -10. No one wants to do that. And it's Ohio, so we don't have to. We don't live in Alberta, Canada. We have a fairly decent winter season. Um, I mean, we are mixed animals, so I do spend a fair amount of time of winter inside. Except for emergencies at 2 in the morning or emergencies at 2 in the morning. But pig barn, back to the pig thing, they're always inside and heated, so that's really nice. Um, but I mean, as many warm clothes as you can. Under Armour outlets are wonderful. And it goes to there's a Facebook group. But both those places and your mentors in school, it's like, hey, where do I get warm layers that are thin? You still gotta be able to do your job. Um, that you can adjust. And I'm a person, I don't like wearing gloves. It's kind of hard when it's cold, but I have really good heated pockets and um all those things. Like I said, you do adjust a little bit. And if not, you run to the truck and warm up and then you run back. So I did cut a C-section in a barn when it was about 2 degrees and I had them tarp off an area and they had space heaters and I was like, I gotta be able to feel my hands, so we gotta figure this out. Um, they didn't want to stand out there in the cold either. So the clients generally understand. If not, you're like, hey, well, we need to do this if you want to see me soon. So you figure it out as you go. What else you guys got? Yeah.
Always, what's your hardest transition from going from a new grad to the business of trying to do business?
Um, it's kind of the same thing as vet school and then in practice. The first couple weeks are kind of the hardest. That being said, I was making a lot of the business decisions before I bought the practice. And part of that is just because I walked into a practice with someone who wanted to retire and sell. Um, so I was able to make those decisions to start prepping the practice for what I wanted it to be. Um, I was a young girl, not from the area, that walked into a practice owned by a mid-70s man. Some issues with that. Um, but a lot of people are like, oh, you're the vet. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not 75 years old. Like, I don't know what you want me to be, but the people will doubt you no matter how old or young you are to some degree. Um, but as far as beyond that go, we had a very like smooth, clean transition. Just getting people to actually adjust. And I still get people to ask all the time, where's old Doc Sim? Enjoying a day off. Like let him be. But we did have a very good transition, so I can't say anything was too harsh on that aspect. I just have to pay for more things now. So that's fun, I guess. Bills and stuff. Anybody else?
Different issues with your female vet and large animal. I've heard stories from people that are not
Um, not terribly. And I actually deal with a lot of Amish, and they really don't bother me too much. Um, you get some people that like want to make stupid comments, and either you laugh or you roll your eyes and you don't dignify it and you move on. Um, not not too terrible. I think you kind of I'm not an extroverted person by nature. I just go home and like don't talk to anyone for a while. That's usually okay with me. Something I had to learn, especially as a practice owner, was like you have to go the extra mile a lot of times. So, learning to be a little more extroverted, I think maybe helped me a little bit, but for the most part, people were pretty accepting. I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, in large animal medicine, you have the old farmer who doesn't want to listen to what you want to say and this, that, and the other. But a lot of times, it's like, okay, well, his daughter might want to hear what you have to say, or his granddaughter might want to hear what you have to say. Um, it's not saying it's always like that. And there are plenty that probably don't want to hear what I have to say. Well, they don't call me and they call the guy that works down the road. And I guess I had to learn to accept that for a couple of things. But I don't miss them. So there's that too. If they're not going to treat you right, and once again, I own the practice, the liberty that I have, but I don't have to deal with them if I don't want to. So yeah, if you want a man, then I guess you can go call him. So, and a lot of them, they really don't care. I think that was something I was maybe a little hesitant about. I go in, I show up, and I do my job. And if they didn't like that, then I did my best. So, what else you guys got? I also do a lot of, I've interviewed for vet school the last 6, 7, 8 years, and I review applications too. So if you have questions about any of that, I can help with that too.
Something on application for really stand out here. You see it, you're like, I can appreciate this.
Variety. There, there's nothing I hate more on an application, and maybe I'm a jerk. I don't know. But to see that you did one thing here and one thing there, like have a lot of depth to an application. And I'm not saying like I shadowed 2 hours here and 3 hours there, but I spent a lot of time at this practice, but I also saw how some other practices went. I did community service. I was in some organizations. Um, I'd say like if you didn't do research, I didn't do research in undergrad. I don't think a lot of people have the willpower to do it. I did not. I couldn't sit there and do it. It just wasn't a me thing. But just a lot of variety and depth to an application I think is really important. And something as like a practitioner I admire is just you've seen some things, you understand what you're getting into with the profession. I think being just at one place and seeing how they did it can make you a little blindsided unless you're just going to work there your whole life. There's a lot of different people out there and different practices, do different things. Variety. What else you guys got? Yeah. So I can't speak for every school. I do interview for Ohio State. And the big thing is like kind of use the same answer, but depth to your answers and showing people who you are. So once again, I can't speak for every school, but at Ohio State, it's a blind interview. So they don't see your application. So tell your story. Say who you are. Um, you know, kind of the very basic questions. Why do you want to be a veterinarian? And I'd say even in, talking in practice interviews, that's the hardest one for people to answer. Everyone's got a leadership experience they can talk about or this, that, and the other, but why do you want to be a vet? And I think it's one where we're like, oh, well, obviously, like I'm applying to vet school, I want to be a vet, but why? And what are you going to do about it? What are you going to bring to the profession? Um, and, you know, kind of remembering why you want to be there. Because like I said, it's a journey. It's not always an easy one. Um, but really showing that you belong here. Or not a very big profession. I mean, on the grand scheme of things. So really and truly being someone that I want to work with and someone that just says, oh, I want to be a vet because I like puppies. And you'd be surprised. What people will say in an interview. That's not enough. That's not enough to just want to play with animals and you like animals and you had a dog growing up. It's, you know, um, you know, we did have a dog, but something happened to my dog and I saw how it affected my family and I want to make sure that other families either do or don't feel that way. And showing why you belong and who you are, I think is really important. And it's a conversation. Like I said, I can't speak for every interview. Um, but you know, why you belong here. It's a big thing. So you had a question.
Yes, I guess I want to ask, does that kind of go with personal statement? Like I'm saying that, pretty much answering that.
Yeah, I hate a boring personal statement. So, um, yeah, once again, it's tell who you are, and why you want to be here. And I think it's nice to have a grammatically correct personal statement too, but um, there's always the generic, I want to be a vet because I like animals, but tell your story. Why do you want to be here? What inspired your passion? Um, and what you want to do about it. And I think the more genuine you are, and once again, just to speak to a lot of what we talked about tonight, the more experiences you have, the more you have to talk about. And once again, sometimes it's what you don't want, and that's okay. But it really adds to your authenticity within an application. And I won't say I haven't been wrong in judging people's character. I have employees that didn't work out, and that's fine. But I think you can really sell who you are, and it goes a long way. Anybody else? Okay, I'll jump to you.
Why'd you choose Westminster School?
In-state tuition. I was a member of the Food Animal Early Commitment Program, so it was I don't know how many of you know about it, but it was an application process and interview process to get into that. And then as long as we met the minimum interview score, we were guaranteed an interview spot. Beyond that, up to how you did in the interview. But I had I won't say an easy pathway, but it gave me a bit of a more direct line into Ohio State. And when I was in undergrad, I spent time shadowing in the hospital and being around some of the doctors. A little partial to the university in general. I did, we were from undergrad, but it was definitely my number one choice. And I'd say there are more livestock heavy vet schools throughout the country. I won't deny that. We live in a city right now, so but I don't regret my education, if that helps that as well. I think I had a very good, well-rounded education overall. Once again, I deal with a lot of students, so I think I comfortably say that at this point. But it was kind of I'll say my only choice, but it's the only place I applied. It's the only place I wanted to apply. So I only applied here really for undergrad too. So there's that.
Okay, so that works for a lot of students. What is something that from their education in the classroom to working in hands-on, what's something that you always feel lacking or something that doesn't support? Or what's like the biggest obstacle they have to overcome to actively be pretty efficient at the end?
It's a really good question. I'm gonna repeat it for anyone that didn't hear. It was what's the biggest barrier basically between student excuse me student transition um into the profession basically. Um Confidence is probably the biggest one. I think confidence and competence, I'm not saying they go hand in hand, but I worked with a vet that said this one and two more make three. He was right. But basically I'm doing this one, and when I do two more, well, I've done three. And there's a lot of things where you have to have a little bit of willingness to try. School is only going to prep you so far. It's going to give you the basic skills. I know, you get out of school and you know how to suture things. Hopefully you know more than that, but you know the basics. Going back to that foreign body surgery, like no one taught me, said, here, do this RNA while I'm standing over here watching you. I didn't get that. I did surgical notes while someone else did one in a fancy surgical suite. But you have to have a little bit of gumption to do something. And I'm not saying you need to do it all on your own. That's why you have mentors and people above you. But it is really hard to go from someone constantly breathing down your neck all the time and grading you over every little thing you do. So, hey, here you go. You're responsible for this thing's life. Good luck. But that's why we did this profession, right? Um, so I think having some confidence and the more places you go, I got a lot of hands-on experience. I think going to practices that allow that is really important. Standing in the corner your whole time, you're not really learning a lot. And I'm not saying you need to do everything, but even just holding off for a blood draw, you're learning. And you're also learning how you want to tell someone to hold off for a blood draw in the future. So all those little things are important. And just having confidence in what you do is really, really important. Question.
You talked a bit about variable clubs earlier,
Mhm.
but what are some other things that in undergrad that make you competitive?
So, how many of you know Marriott? Yeah, okay. So I love Marriott. Um, I went to her during my first year of undergrad, and I said, all right, I think I want to graduate early. It doesn't really make sense for me to stay around for 4 years when I can get out and break. She said, okay, you want to go to vet school? I said, yeah. She said, well, you better get involved like yesterday. I said, okay. And I probably took it a little too literally. So I was involved in quite a few student organizations and I held a lot of leadership positions. So my senior year of undergrad, I was treasurer of student council, vice president of ASCA, so the Animal Science Community Alliance. I held a committee position in Saddle and Sirloin, and I was the recording secretary for Dairy Club. I was also in a sorority, and I did other things. So I did a lot. I don't know how I had any free time or how I studied really. Especially like I look back now, I'm like, man, I don't know how I did all that. But I guess I was younger and I still found time to go out with my friends some nights. Um, but really I think getting involved in doing those leadership positions, and I didn't have as much, chronological time to do it. I kind of had to squeeze it in a little more. Um, but I think it was like, all right, well, that's gonna light a fire in my ass, and we're gonna get it done. I spent time over the summers doing a variety of things. I think especially being a large animal person, there's not a lot of large animal clinics that are gonna pay you to come shadow them. Fiscally, it just doesn't work. I can attest to that. So I took livestock production jobs that still looked really good on resumes, and they were once again really good talking points for a lot of things. I worked for a place where I was an extern and weighed dairy heifers for projects. We would map them and send them to the farmer and talk about improvements they could do. I was a calf feeder one summer. I was bottle feeding a bunch of dairy calves. And it wasn't directly veterinary things. I had to treat a lot of sick calves, so I mean there was in a roundabout way. Um, but it really kind of drove me to do a lot of different things that once again they look really good on an application, but I learned a lot in those things that I can apply to now and made a lot of connections of people I can still rely on or call or that write really good letters of recommendation. So all of those things, but I think going back to letters of recommendation is get involved with people that are going to write you a strong letter of recommendation. So I think one of the things that I feel bad about almost in reading certain applications, I'm like, oh man, this application's great. And I go to open a letter of recommendation of someone that says has known them for 4 years and it says they're questionable for leadership experience. I'm like, oh, now I'm doubting you a little bit. So really get in with some people that are going to advocate for you, and being involved with them for whatever aspect it may be is really important. Clubs or jobs, or whatever have you, even professors. Anybody else? Okay. Well, if you didn't want to ask a question out loud, I'll hang out for a few minutes. But thank you.